everybody, and welcome back to Le Jaffe Watchworks. On my channel, I do all things horology related. Today, we're putting together this beautiful 1970s PRIM made in Czechoslovakia behind the Iron Curtain wristwatch. Step 1 here, I'm using my stake tool to align the cannon pinion with the hour wheel below. Now this hour wheel is sunk deep into the main plate, and so the standard way of doing this wasn't going to cut it. Ah, what a nice sound. Whoa, easy there, Butterfingers. Okay, job done. Step 2, let's put in the pallet fork. Now extreme care has to be taken with this particular component. The pivots are the smallest of the whole watch. There's no faster way to ruin a day than to snap these small pivots off. And now that the bridge is clean, let's very carefully put it into position. Now I have 3 points on this bridge I need to align. There are 2 stumps on the main plate, as well as align the pivot in the hole jewel that you saw there. And patience is the name of the game on this particular step. And periodically, I'm going to tap the pallet jewels to ensure the pallet fork pivots are aligned, and we look pretty good here. Now that the bridge is seated, we'll add the screws. There we go. Now, after ensuring the pivot was seated correctly in the jewels by looking through my jeweler's loop, I'm going to tighten the screws down now. Yeah, there's a lot of these old mechanical watches out there that just need a quick service, and we can get another several decades of life out of them yet. And this watch is one of those cases. Next, our escapement wheel. Yeah, she cleaned up quite nice. If you happen to catch an earlier video where I disassembled this watch, you would know how gross that thing was. And if you haven't seen it, I suggest you watch the first part. Very nice. Now, something interesting to these PRIM watches is this, I'll call it a sub-bridge. The main function seems to hold the hour wheel in position because both the third and fourth wheel are through the plate. Here come some screws. And I apologize for the autofocus there a little bit. Okay, after adding in the train of wheels comes the train wheel bridge. And now I'm lightly meshing the gears and aligning the pivots to the hole jewels. Lovely, clean hole jewels. And after confirming conditions were correct, time to tighten this bridge down. Great. Let's add in the mainspring. Now hidden under that plate is a very long spring that gives the watch its power. A type of mechanical battery, you might call. And here is our main wheel bridge. And our winding gears. Very nice. Now the smaller wheel, this one, has a left-handed thread. And that left-handed thread allows that particular gear to spin without tightening the screw so much that it renders it unmovable. Now, what I'm installing is called the click. Now the click has a very important job, and that is to hold back the power of the mainspring. And when you wind a watch, that's what you're hearing. Without this particular piece, the watch wouldn't run. And after adding this spacer, it's time for the screw. Very nice. And now we want to check to make sure the click is doing his job. So I'm going to put a little bit of wind into the watch here. And you can see, there we go. The click is working just fine. Great. And I'm going to test that everything's working by just gently tapping the pallet fork. And you'll see that it's snapping from right to left. That means that mechanical energy is traveling through the train of wheels all the way to the pallet fork and letting it snap back and forth. Now it's time to work on the dial side. I'm going to start by putting way too much oil on this particular area, but don't worry folks, I'm going to dab up about 70% of that back up. And the reason for that is I will be putting these date changing wheels into position. And here comes our setting gear. And a little bit of oil to keep him happy. And just a little bit, that's all that it takes. Over-oiling can cause just as much damage as under-oiling. And typically, less is more. So now I'm preparing the crown wheel. And our ratchet Now in comes our stem, and I need to carefully align these parts. There we go. Next comes the spring. Now the spring will provide tension to a yoke arm that allows that clutch to slide back and forth. And that's how you can switch from winding the watch to setting the time. And now I'll carefully engage this arm to the clutch. Very good. Okay. Now this particular component allows you to release the stem from the watch itself. But first comes this Now, what this particular spring does is hold either the set position or the winding position. And before I get too crazy, I want to get these screws started. Alright, that looks good. Now I'm not going to tighten this all the way just yet, just to get these screws started. Okay, very well. And now that the spring is engaged, we'll go ahead and tighten it down. There we have it. Yeah, the key on this step is to make sure that the yoke arm below is still touching that sliding clutch. And here comes the spring that holds the tension onto the stem, which keeps it into the wristwatch. And if you did catch the disassembly video, this portion of the watch was quite damaged. So much so, I had to use a donor component from another one. Most of the rest was taken off, and I think we're going to be just fine. So after adding the foot comes the minute wheel, and I want to make sure that meshes properly there. Very well. And here comes our date wheel. Now we have that Geneva cross here. I need to align, as well as that component that I'm calling the foot. Now on comes this top plate, and I have to align 2 pins, as well as make sure the spring is aligned and pushing the foot into the date wheel. There we have it. Now, one feature I really like about this is the fact that you can skip days. Time to check that the day wheel works, and here's the function where I can skip, and that works as well. Very good. And speed this up a bit, we want to check that we jump again. Great. So that function seems to be fine, so let's add our dial back on. There are 2 small screws embedded in the main plate that hold the dial to the movement. And after getting the date wheel to change, that's my cue to set the hands to the 12 o'clock position. There we have it. And here comes the pesky second hand. Now this is my strategy. I see a lot in forums that people struggle with this step, and this is how I do it. And again, don't be afraid to use toothpicks. They work just fine. Now that the second wheel is on, it's time to remove the stem and put the movement into the case. There we have it. Now, in hindsight, I should have put the hands on later. I should have first put in these screws that you see here, but I'm going to protect the hands by using the crystal on the front side. And now what these 2 screws do is hold the movement into the case. There we have it. Okay. So now that the movement is secured into the case, let's give the crystal a little love here. I'm going to start by removing it. And I do that by flexing the crystal, more or less, and follow up by taking a nail file to smooth out as much as I can and polish with toothpaste. After that short treatment, it's time to flex the crystal again, making the OD slightly smaller, and that allows this ring to seat the crystal. And a quick press, and it's back on. Okay, now, last thing to do is add in our hairspring. It's a bit of moment of truth. Now I've pre-wound the watch just a little bit. And I'm going to very carefully add in the most sensitive component, our balance wheel and hairspring assembly. So it's been quite a process to get to this point. We disassembled everything carefully, washed each part, inspected each part, under the microscope in most cases, all leading to this moment. And I'm going to speed this up to spare you the pain. And despite having it seated properly, I had the pallet fork banked to the right side instead of the left side, so all this was for nothing, and I ended up removing it and putting it back in. But eventually, we were successful. And so she's slowly picking up steam. And that's why we do it. Ah, beautiful sight. And now it's time to add the back case cover. Wonderful. And I have a nice pair of chicken leg hide straps. There we go. Again, we want to make sure not to scratch or damage that case, so I'm very carefully pressing in those spring bars. There we have it. There we go. Job done. Now she's ready for another decade of service. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Subscribe, it's free of charge.